They say marriage is a gamble, but my husband thought he was the house. He believed his 2-year flight to London was a golden ticket to freedom with his mistress, leaving me with nothing but an empty home. He thinks he is starring in a tearful farewell drama, but I quietly rewrote the ending 72 hours ago. As his plane takes off, his world collapses, and I begin my own game with $650,000 in my pocket. My name is Sydney Brookstone. I am 32 years old, and standing in the middle of the departures terminal at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, I am currently delivering the performance of my life. My shoulders are shaking with what looks like uncontrollable grief. I have buried my face in the cashmere lapel of my husband's coat, inhaling the scent of his expensive cologne, a scent I bought him for our anniversary 3 months ago, and letting out a series of ragged, wet sobs that are drawing sympathetic glances from passers-by. To the casual observer, I am the picture of a devoted wife about to be separated from her soulmate. I am the heartbroken woman clinging to the last few seconds of intimacy before the cold reality of a long-distance marriage sets in. Ethan Caldwell, my husband of 5 years, is playing his part perfectly as well. He is 35, handsome in that effortless, corporate ladder-climbing way, with a jawline that suggests integrity and eyes that currently display a practiced warmth. He runs his hand soothingly down my back, making a show of comforting me. "Hey, shh, it is okay, Sid," he murmurs, his voice a low rumble against my ear. "It is only 2 years. You know this is for us. This position at the Omnicorp Global London branch is going to change everything. I am doing this so we can have that future we talked about. The house on the water, the early retirement. I will be back before you know it." I sob louder, gripping his coat tighter, not because I am sad, but because I need to hide the fact that I'm not crying at all. I am forcing the physical heave of my chest, willing my eyes to stay red, while my mind is completely cold, detached, and ticking like a stopwatch. I am a risk assessment auditor by trade. My entire career is built on identifying liabilities, calculating probabilities, and mitigating disasters before they happen. Ethan thinks he is the one managing the situation. He thinks he is the protagonist of a romantic tragedy, making a noble sacrifice for his family. He has no idea that he is actually the primary liability in a case file I have already closed. "I am going to miss you so much," I managed to choke out, my voice cracking. It is the only honest thing I have said all morning, though the context is entirely different from what he assumes. I will miss the version of him I thought existed. I will miss the time I wasted. But the man holding me right now? The man who looks at me with love while holding a one-way ticket to a new life with another woman? I want to vomit on his shoes. "I will call you the second I land at Heathrow," Ethan promises, pulling back to wipe a non-existent tear from my cheek with his thumb. He looks deep into my eyes, and for a second, I wonder if he sees the abyss staring back at him. But he is too arrogant for that. He only sees what he expects to see: a dependent, emotional wife who is about to be lost without him. "You hold down the fort here, okay? I love you, Sydney." "I love you too." I lie. The words taste like ash. He checks his watch, a Rolex Submariner that I know he charged to our joint credit card without asking, and sighs. "I have to go, babe. Security lines are a nightmare." I nod, stepping back, wrapping my arms around myself as if I am physically holding myself together. I watch him grab the handle of his carry-on. He flashes that charming, boyish grin one last time, turns, and walks toward the TSA checkpoint. This is the moment. The countdown in my head hits 0. I stand there, watching his silhouette recede into the crowd. I wait until he reaches the conveyor belts. I wait until he takes off his shoes. I wait until he steps through the body scanner and is cleared on the other side. He turns back once, giving a final, tragic wave. I raise a trembling hand in return, and then he turns a corner and vanishes. The transformation is instantaneous. The slump in my shoulders disappears. My spine snaps straight. The tragic expression on my face dissolves, replaced by a look of stone-cold indifference. I reach into my purse, pull out a tissue, and dab the corners of my eyes with surgical precision. Ensuring my mascara does not smear, the weeping wife is gone. Sydney Brookstone, the auditor, has clocked in. I do not linger. I do not look back at the spot where we just shared our fake goodbye. I turn on my heel and walk briskly toward the exit, my heels clicking a sharp, authoritative rhythm on the polished airport floor. The noise of the terminal, the announcements, the crying babies, the wheeling suitcases, fades into background white noise. My focus is entirely on the phone in my hand. I unlock the screen and immediately open the banking application. My heart rate does not elevate. My hands do not shake. This is a transaction I have mentally rehearsed 1,000 times over the last 72 hours. I tap on the joint savings account. The screen loads, displaying the number that represents 5 years of my hard work, my bonuses, and the significant inheritance my grandmother left me when she passed away last winter. $652,000. It is a staggering amount of money. It is the money Ethan thinks is sitting there, safe and ready for him to raid once he settles into his London flat. He thinks he can access this nest egg to fund his fresh start, to buy penthouses and champagne for his mistress, while I stay in Seattle paying the mortgage on a house he has already secretly leveraged. He believes he is the smart one. He believes I am the fool. I tap the transfer button. I select the destination account. It is not a domestic account. It is a routing number for a private bank in Zurich, Switzerland. An account I opened 2 days ago under a holding company name that cannot be traced back to my personal social security number easily. I navigate to the amount field. I do not hesitate. I type in the numbers 651,990,$651,990. I leave exactly $10 in the account. Why leave $10? Because leaving it at zero feels too final, too clean. Leaving $10 is an insult. $10 is enough to buy a bad airport sandwich and a bottle of water. It is a message. It says, I did not just empty the account. I left you exactly what you are worth. I hit confirm. The app asks for a second authentication. I switch apps, copy the code, switch back, and paste it. Processing, the little spinning wheel on the screen mocks the gravity of the situation. A lifetime of savings, the security of my future, the vengeance for my grandmother's legacy, it all hangs on a digital signal bouncing off a satellite somewhere in the stratosphere. Transfer complete. The new balance on the screen stares back at me. $10.00. A dark, grim satisfaction settles in my chest. It is better than any adrenaline rush. It is the feeling of a balance sheet finally being corrected. The debt has been called in. I exit the banking app and immediately open my contacts. I scroll past husband and find the name Marcus Sterling. Marcus is the kind of divorce attorney who does not advertise on billboards. He is the kind of shark you hire when you want the other party to bleed, but you want the water to remain clear. I retained him yesterday morning with a cash retainer I withdrew from a separate personal account. I press the call button. He answers on the second ring. Sydney. His voice is rough, professional, and devoid of pleasantries. Is he airborne? He just cleared security, I say. My voice is steady, crisp, and completely different from the whimpering tone I used 5 minutes ago. He is gone. File it. The papers are already printed, Marcus replies. I am sending the process server to the airport to meet him when he lands. But since that is international, we are filing the digital motion with the King County Superior Court right now. By the time he lands in London and turns his phone on, he will legally be a respondent in a divorce proceeding. We are locking the assets. There are no assets to lock, Marcus, I say, walking through the automatic sliding doors of the airport and into the gray, drizzling Seattle afternoon. The joint account is empty. I moved it all. Good, Marcus says. I can practically hear him smiling. Let him scream. We will talk tomorrow. Stay safe. I am always safe, I reply, and hang up. I do not head to the parking garage where my car is parked. Ethan knows that car. He knows the license plate. Instead, I walk straight to the taxi stand. I do not want to be anywhere near a vehicle that can be tracked. And I certainly do not want to go back to the house. That house is a crime scene of lies. Every room holds a memory of his deception. The kitchen where he cooked me dinner while texting her, the living room where we watched movies while he planned his exit strategy, the bedroom where he slept beside me, dreaming of another life. If I go back there tonight, I might burn it down. "Where to, lady?" the cab driver asks as I slide into the back seat. "The Four Seasons on Union Street," I say. I have booked a suite for the next 3 nights. It is expensive, but I can afford it now. More importantly, it is neutral ground. It is a fortress with room service and high thread count sheets where I can sit and watch the fallout. As the taxi merges onto the highway, putting distance between me and the airport, I pull my phone out one last time. I open Instagram. I navigate to Ethan's profile. There are photos of us, smiling, happy, fake. I tap the 3 dots in the corner, block. I open Facebook, block. I open WhatsApp, block. I go through every social media channel we share. I sever the digital tethers one by one. I'm erasing myself from his virtual existence just as efficiently as I erased his financial security. I leave only 2 channels open, my email address and my direct phone number. I want him to be able to reach me. I want to hear it when he lands. I want to be on the other end of the line when he stands at the rental car counter in London, tired and jet-lagged, trying to swipe his card for a luxury sedan to impress his mistress, only to see the word "declined" flash in red letters. I want to hear the panic in his voice when he opens his banking app and sees the number 10. I look out the window at the rainy skyline of Seattle passing by. The gray clouds usually make me feel melancholy, but today, they feel like cover. They feel like a fresh slate. Ethan thinks he has escaped. He thinks he is flying toward freedom at 500 miles per hour. He has no idea that he is actually flying straight into a wall. The plane ride is 11 hours. That gives me 11 hours to order a bottle of wine, take a hot bath, and prepare for the second act. The tears at the airport were the final payment on the naive Sydney Brookstone. She is gone now. The woman sitting in this taxi is someone else entirely. I am the auditor. And I have just found a massive discrepancy in the books. I lean back against the leather seat and close my eyes. Not to sleep, but to visualize the look on his face when the realization hits him. It is going to be magnificent. It is going to be tragic. It is going to be worth every single penny of the $651,990 I just took back, 72 hours ago. I was not a woman contemplating the destruction of her husband. I was simply a wife looking for a recipe. It was a Tuesday evening, quiet and unremarkable. Ethan was in the shower, the sound of the running water humming through the walls of the master bedroom. I was in the kitchen, intending to make a saffron risotto, a dish he claimed to love, for his farewell dinner later in the week. My phone was charging upstairs, so I reached for the old iPad that we kept in the junk drawer next to the refrigerator. It was an outdated model, the screen spider-webbed with a hairline crack from when Ethan dropped it 3 years ago, but it still worked for browsing the internet. I pressed the home button. It did not ask for a passcode. That should have been the first warning sign. But in the domestic safety of my own kitchen, I did not think like an auditor, I thought like a spouse. I tapped the browser icon, but instead of opening a blank search page, the screen refreshed. The device had apparently been used recently, and because Ethan had forgotten to disable the automatic cloud synchronization between his new phone and this old tablet, the digital ghost of his recent activity flooded the screen. It was not a recipe. It was a folder in his photo gallery titled simply, London. Curiosity is a professional hazard for me. I did not intend to snoop, but my thumb hovered over the folder, and then, almost of its own volition, it tapped the glass. The first image was a screenshot of a flight confirmation. First class, Seattle to London Heathrow, one way. My heart gave a strange, singular thump against my ribs. I knew he was flying to London. This was not news. But as my eyes scanned the details, the breath caught in my throat. The reservation listed 2 passengers. Passenger 1, Ethan Caldwell. Passenger 2, Vanessa Thorne. I stared at the name, blinking rapidly. Hoping it was a hallucination, I knew exactly who Vanessa Thorne was. She was 24 years old, the daughter of the CEO of Thorne Logistics, Omnicorp's biggest rival in the shipping sector. I had met her once at a charity gala. She was beautiful in a vapid, high-maintenance way. The kind of woman who wore designer labels like Armor and looked at women like me, women who worked 60 hours a week, as if we were the help. I swiped left. The next image was a selfie. They were in a bed, not our bed. It looked like a hotel room, judging by the generic art on the wall. Ethan was asleep, his mouth slightly open, looking vulnerable and boyish. Vanessa was awake, smirking at the camera, her hand resting possessively on his bare chest. I felt a physical blow to my stomach, a wave of nausea so violent I had to grip the granite countertop to keep from collapsing. But I did not collapse. The shock lasted exactly 10 seconds. Then, the cold, hard logic of my profession kicked in my line of work. When you find one irregularity, you do not stop. You dig until you hit the bedrock of the fraud. I closed the photos and opened his messages. The synchronization was lagging slightly, but the texts from the last week were all there. I found the thread with Vanessa. It was a catalog of grotesque intimacy and calculated malice. "I can't wait to get out of here," Ethan had written 2 days ago. "She is suffocating me. The act is exhausting. Only 48 hours left until freedom." Did you secure the flat?" Vanessa replied. "Better," Ethan wrote back. "I put the deposit down on the Kensington penthouse, with the exchange rate. It is costing a fortune. But don't worry. Sydney's savings will cover the first 2 years of rent and all the furniture you want. She thinks I am putting it into a high-yield bond for our retirement. The only thing retiring is her bank balance." I read the message 3 times. He was not just leaving me, he was stealing from me. He was taking the money my grandmother left me, the money she saved for decades working in a textile factory, and using it to fund a luxury love nest with a trust fund princess. But the horror did not end there. As I scrolled back further, the conversation shifted from romance to finance, and the picture became significantly darker. "Are you sure the loan went through?" Vanessa asked in a text dated last week. "My dad will cut me off if he finds out I'm going with you. We need cash." "It is done," Ethan replied. "I leveraged the house, took out a second mortgage with a private lender. High interest, but who cares? We will be in London. The debt stays here with her. By the time the bank forecloses, we will be ghosts." I felt the blood drain from my face. The house, our home, the craftsman bungalow in Queen Anne that we had spent 3 years renovating. It was jointly owned. He could not take out a second mortgage without my signature. It was legally impossible. Unless I exited the messages and opened his email app. I searched for DocuSign. The results populated instantly. There was an email from a predatory lending firm called Quick Capital Secure. The subject line read, "Loan funded, $450,000. I opened the attached PDF. It was a loan agreement, finalized 5 days ago. I scrolled to the bottom. There, on the signature line, was my name, Sydney Brookstone. It was a decent forgery, but to my trained eye, it was sloppy. The loop on the Y was too wide. The slant was off by 5 degrees. He had traced my signature from our tax returns, scanned it, and pasted it onto the digital document. He had committed a felony. He had stolen my identity, leveraged our home to the hilt, and taken nearly $500,000 in cash to likely launder through cryptocurrency or offshore accounts before fleeing the country. I stood in the kitchen, the iPad heavy as a stone in my hand. The shower upstairs had stopped. I heard the bathroom door open. I heard his heavy footsteps on the floorboards above my head. "Babe," he called out, his voice cheerful and oblivious. "Have you seen my blue tie? The one with the stripes?" I looked at the staircase. For a split second, I wanted to run up there and scream. I wanted to smash the iPad over his head. I wanted to drag him by his hair to the police station, but screaming is free. Revenge costs money, and it requires patience. If I confronted him now, he would deny it. He would gaslight me. He would destroy the evidence. He might even get violent. He was desperate, and desperate men are dangerous. I needed to be smarter. I needed to be Sydney Brookstone, the risk assessor. I quickly took photos of every damning email, every text, and every flight confirmation using my own phone. Then, I closed the apps on the iPad, wiped the screen with a dish towel to remove my fingerprints, and placed it back in the junk drawer exactly as I had found it. "I think it is in the dry cleaning pile," I yelled back up the stairs. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, flat and mechanical, but he did not notice. "Thanks there, sweetie," he shouted back. That was the moment the marriage died. The next 72 hours were an exercise in espionage. The next morning, Wednesday, I called in sick to work. As soon as Ethan left for his office, claiming he had final wrap-up meetings, which I now knew were likely trysts with Vanessa, I went to work. My first stop was a small, nondescript office in downtown Seattle. It belonged to a man named Jim Halloway, a private investigator and former forensic handwriting analyst I had used for corporate audits in the past. I laid the printed screenshots of the loan documents on his desk. "I need you to verify that this is a forgery," I said, sliding an envelope containing $5,000 in cash across the table. "And I need you to find out where the money went." Jim looked at the document, then at me. He did not ask questions. He pulled out a jeweler's loupe and studied the signature. "Digital paste job," he muttered after 30 seconds. "Pixels are pixelated on the curve. It is a copy-paste. I can write you an affidavit stating this is not an original wet signature and highly likely a forgery. That will hold up in civil court to freeze the debt liability, so they can't come after your personal assets immediately." "Do it," I said. "And I need you to track his movements for the last month. Every hotel, every dinner. I need photos of him with her. High resolution." "You want to shame him?" Jim asked. "I want leverage," I corrected. By Wednesday afternoon, I had purchased 3 encrypted external hard drives. I spent 4 hours backing up our entire digital life. Tax returns, bank statements, his emails, the photos from the cloud. I created a redundancy system that even a government wiper could not erase. I was building a case file that would make the Enron scandal look like a parking ticket. On Thursday, 24 hours before his flight, I had an emergency session with Dr. Eris Thorne, no relation to Vanessa, my therapist of 3 years. I sat on her beige couch and, for the first time, I did not have to act. I let the stress radiate off me. I told her I felt unsafe. I told her I felt manipulated. I did not tell her about the money or the plan. Client privilege has its limits, but I planted the seeds. "I feel like I'm losing my mind," I told her, my hands trembling. "He is hiding things. I feel incredible emotional distress. I am having panic attacks." "Doctor," Thorne took copious notes, "this sounds like classic gaslighting. Sydney, I am going to document this as acute stress reaction caused by marital instability." That was exactly what I needed, a medical paper trail. If Ethan tried to claim I was the abusive one, or if he tried to sue me later for the money I was about to take, I had a licensed professional's note stating that he was the aggressor. He was the cause of my breakdown. It was a defensive shield for the legal war to come. Then came the hardest part. Thursday night, the Last Supper, I made the saffron risotto. I stood over the stove, stirring the rice, watching the steam rise. Ethan came home late, smelling of a perfume that was decidedly floral. Chanel No. 5, Vanessa's signature scent. He walked into the kitchen and kissed me on the cheek. I did not flinch. I did not recoil. I leaned into it. "Smells amazing," he said, loosening his tie. "I am going to miss your cooking." We sat at the dining table, the same table where we had planned our wedding, the same table where we had discussed baby names just last year. He poured the wine, a Pinot Noir we had bought in Napa. "So," he said, raising his glass, "to the future, To us. I raised my glass. The crystal caught the light of the chandelier. To the future, I echoed. I watched him eat. I watched him chew. I watched the way he wiped his mouth with the napkin. I analyzed him not as a husband, but as a biological specimen. How could a human being lie so easily? He looked me in the eye and talked about how he would scout for apartments in London that had a guest room for when I visited. He talked about how hard it would be to be apart. I was thinking, he said, taking a sip of wine. Maybe we should move some of the savings into a joint checking account, just so I have easy access in case of emergencies in London. You know, medical stuff, or if the corporate card has limits. He was trying to get me to move the money for him, to save him the trouble of hacking it himself later. He wanted me to hand him the knife so he could stab me with it. That is a good idea, I said, smiling warmly. I will handle it tomorrow morning while you are at the airport. I want to make sure you are safe. You are the best, he said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. His palm was warm. His grip was firm. I squeezed back. Inside my head, I was screaming. I was visualizing the wire transfer. I was visualizing the look on his face when the card declined. I was visualizing the collapse of his entire pathetic, deceitful little world. But on the outside, I was the doting wife. I cleared the plates. I washed the dishes. I lay next to him in bed that night, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, waiting for him to fall asleep so I could stare at the ceiling and finalize the checklist in my mind. He slept soundly, the sleep of a man who thinks he has gotten away with murder. He had no idea that the woman lying next to him was not sleeping. I was calculating. I was auditing. And I had found him bankrupt in every sense of the word. 72 hours. That was all it took to turn love into hate. And grief into strategy. The crying woman at the airport was just the final coat of paint on a masterpiece of deception. The real work had been done in the silence of this kitchen, in the glow of a cracked iPad screen, and in the cold, hard resolve of a woman who refuses to be a victim. The wait is the most exquisite part of the trap. I am sitting in a velvet armchair in my suite at the Four Seasons, overlooking the Seattle waterfront. It is just past 2 a.m. here, but I am wide awake. The city outside is dark and lashed by rain, but inside, the room is warm, lit only by the soft glow of a floor lamp and the blue light of my laptop screen. I have a glass of expensive Cabernet Sauvignon in one hand, a vintage I never would have bought when I was saving for our imaginary future, and my phone sits on the marble side table. Screen up, sound on maximum volume. According to the flight tracker I have been monitoring for the last 11 hours, British Airways Flight 49 has just touched down at Heathrow. I can visualize the scene perfectly. It plays out in my mind like a movie I have written, directed, and produced. Ethan is currently striding through the arrivals hall, chest puffed out, feeling like the master of the universe. He's likely wearing his travel blazer, the one he thinks makes him look like a European diplomat, and guiding Vanessa Thorne by the small of her back. She is probably complaining about the dry air in first class or the lack of legroom, despite the lay-flat seats, and he is soothing her with promises of the penthouse in Kensington and a shopping spree on Bond Street. They will clear customs easily. Ethan has a charismatic face. He looks like the kind of man who has nothing to hide. He will grab their luggage, his sensible Samsonite and her 4 Louis Vuitton trunks, and head for the rental car center. He told me he reserved a Range Rover Sport. Of course he did. Nothing says, "I have arrived," like an $80,000 SUV you cannot afford. I take a slow sip of wine. The tannins are smooth against my tongue. Any minute now, he will walk up to the counter. The agent will ask for his license and credit card. He will hand over the platinum joint card, the heavy metal one that makes a satisfying thwack when it hits the counter. He will flash that winning smile. The agent will type, swipe, and wait. And then, the terminal will beep, declined. He will frown. He will laugh it off. "Must be a chip error," he will say. "Try it again." They will try it again. Declined. He will try the backup card, the Visa. Declined. He will try the emergency Amex. Declined. I swirl the wine in my glass. I can almost hear the blood rushing in his ears from 5,000 miles away. My phone vibrates. The screen lights up. The name husband flashes against the background photo of us on our honeymoon in Maui. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. I want him to sweat. I want him to panic. I want Vanessa to be standing there, tapping her designer-clad foot, asking why the car is not ready yet. On the 4th ring, I swipe right. Hello? I answer. My voice is calm, sleepy even. I sound like a wife who's been woken up in the middle of the night, not an executioner waiting for the guillotine to drop. Sydney! His voice explodes through the speaker so loud, I have to pull the phone away from my ear. He is not just angry, he is hysterical. The background noise is chaotic. Announcements, rolling suitcases, the confused murmur of travelers. What the hell is going on? I am at the rental counter and the cards are not working. All of them. They are all declined. Did you forget to pay the bill? I take another sip of wine, savoring the panic in his voice. Hello to you too. Ethan, how was the flight? Did you sleep well? Stop with the pleasantries, he screams. I can hear the suppressed rage, the way he is trying to keep his voice down so the people around him do not stare. But failing miserably, I am standing here like an idiot. The guy says there are insufficient funds. I just checked the mobile app and it says $10. Sydney, tell me this is a glitch. Tell me the bank system is down. It is not a glitch, Ethan, I say, my voice cooling by 10 degrees. And the bank is working perfectly. I just checked it myself. There is a silence on the other end. It is heavy, thick, and suffocating. What do you mean? He whispers. The bluster is gone, replaced by a cold dread. Where is the money? Where is the $650,000? I moved it, I say simply. Consider it a service fee, for 5 years of cooking your meals, washing your clothes, listening to your lies, and tolerating your mediocrity. I calculated my hourly rate, added a surcharge for emotional damages, and it came out to exactly $651,990. So, I paid myself. You stole it? He chokes on the words. You stole our money? My money, I correct him. My bonus? My inheritance? My savings? You contributed nothing but debt and audacity. Oh, and by the way, check your email. I sent you a little document. I think you will find it interesting. It is a digital copy of the divorce petition. Marcus filed it the moment your plane took off. You are officially being served. I hear a gasp on the other end, but it is not from Ethan. It is a female voice, high-pitched and annoyed. Ethan, why is the card declined? Vanessa, I can hear her clearly now. My feet hurt. I want to go to the hotel. Why are we just standing here? Who are you talking to? Shut up, Vanessa! Ethan snaps at her. Then he turns his attention back to me, his voice dropping to a venomous growl. You listen to me, you crazy bitch. You put that money back, right now. If you do not transfer every cent back into that account within 10 minutes, I am calling the police. I will report you for grand larceny. I will tell them you hacked my account. You will go to jail. Sydney, do you hear me? Jail. I laugh. It is a dry, humorless sound. Go ahead. Ethan, call them. Call the Metropolitan Police. Call the FBI. I would love for you to do that. You think I won't? He threatens. I will ruin you. I will destroy your career. No firm will ever hire an auditor who steals from her own husband. Actually, I say, leaning forward and placing my wine glass on the table, I think you should look at the second attachment in the email I just sent you. Go on, open it. I will wait. I hear him fumbling with the phone. I hear his breathing, ragged and fast. I imagine him pulling the phone away from his ear, minimizing the call screen, and opening his inbox. What is this? He mutters. It is a PDF, I explain helpfully. Page 1 is a high-resolution scan of the loan agreement you signed with Quick Capital Secure last week. The one where you took out a $450,000 second mortgage on our home without my consent? Silence. Keep looking, I urge him. Look at the signature line. That is my name, but it is not my signature. That is a digital forgery, a Class B felony in the state of Washington. And if you scroll down to page 2, you will see a sworn affidavit from a forensic handwriting analyst confirming that the signature is a fake. Sydney, his voice cracks. And page 3, I continue, relentless. That is my favorite. It is a photograph, taken 3 days ago at the airport VIP lounge. You and Vanessa, kissing, while you were supposed to be at a client meeting, and look at the timestamp. It matches perfectly with the time you texted me to say you were stuck in traffic. You had me followed? He sounds horrified. I am a risk assessor. Ethan, I say, I assess risk. And you? You are a walking liability. Sydney, please, he starts to beg. The shift is pathetic. The tough guy act evaporates instantly. We can talk about this. Do not do this. I am in London. I have no money. I have nowhere to go. I know, I say cheerfully. $10 does not get you very far in London. Maybe a coffee and a croissant if you are lucky, but certainly not a Range Rover. And definitely not a penthouse in Kensington. You can't leave me here like this, he pleads. Vanessa is pregnant. We need money. Oh, she is pregnant? I feign surprise, though I already suspected it from the way she had been touching her stomach in the surveillance photos. Well, congratulations. I hope the baby inherits her father's money management skills and her mother's loyalty, but that is not my problem. Ethan, that is your problem. I will sue you, he screams again, pivoting back to anger. I will tell everyone. If you make one move, I say, my voice dropping to a whisper that is colder than the ice in an Arctic sea. If you call a lawyer, if you call the police, if you even think about posting a sad story on Facebook, I will hit send on another email I have drafted. Do you want to know who is on the recipient list? He does not answer, but I can hear him breathing. The first recipient is the ethics board at Omnicorp Global, I say. I will send them the proof of the forgery and the embezzlement. You used company funds to pay for Vanessa's ticket, didn't you? I have the credit card receipts. Ethan, you will be fired for cause before you even step foot in the office. You will lose your visa. You will be deported. I pause for effect. And the second recipient, I continue, is Quick Capital Secure, the loan sharks. If I tell them the signature is fake and I am not liable for the debt, they will realize they have no collateral. They will come after you personally, and I do not think they sue. Ethan, I think they break kneecaps. You wouldn't, he whispers. Try me, I say. Ethan, Vanessa's voice cuts through the background again, louder this time. My card just got declined for the water. What is happening? Why do you look like you're about to throw up? I have to go, I say, looking at my manicured fingernails. It sounds like your mistress is thirsty. You should probably buy her that water. You have $10. After all, spend it wisely. Sydney, wait, don't hang up. What do I do? How do I live? I hear the London Underground is looking for buskers, I say. You were always good at acting. Put out a hat. Cry a little. It worked on me for 5 years. Maybe it will work on strangers. Sydney, I hang up. I stare at the phone for a moment. Then I toss it onto the soft duvet of the bed. A smile spreads across my face. It starts small, just a quirk of the lips, but it grows until I am grinning like a Cheshire cat in the dim light of the hotel room. I pick up my wine glass and walk to the window. The rain is still hammering against the glass, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and silver. Somewhere, 5,000 miles away, in a brightly lit terminal at Heathrow, Ethan Caldwell is standing next to his luggage, staring at a phone that has gone dead. He is surrounded by people, yet he is completely alone. He has a pregnant mistress who expects a life of luxury, a job that is hanging by a thread, a criminal record waiting to happen, and $10 in his pocket. He thought he was the player. He thought he was the house. He never realized that he was just the dice, and I had already rigged the table. I finish the wine in one gulp. It tastes like victory. I turn away from the window and walk toward the bathroom. I am going to draw a hot bath. I am going to soak in lavender salts, and then I am going to sleep for 12 hours. The war has just begun. But the first battle? It was a massacre. The legal machinery of a divorce is usually a slow, grinding beast. But when you feed it the right evidence, it becomes a guillotine. 2 days after the airport incident, I sat in the conference room of Marcus Sterling's law firm. The table was mahogany. The view was of the Space Needle. And the mood was predatory. Marcus slid a thick binder across the table toward me. "We have made the first move," Marcus said, his voice as smooth as the silk of his tie. "We filed the motion for dissolution of marriage based on irreconcilable differences. Citing financial infidelity and adultery, we also filed an emergency ex parte motion to freeze any remaining assets he might try to access remotely. Though you have already done a thorough job of draining the swamp." "What is his response?" I asked, flipping through the documents. "He has retained counsel," Marcus said, a small smirk playing on his lips. "A solicitor in London named Nigel Pembroke. I looked him up. He operates out of a shared office space in a less than desirable part of East London. He specializes in immigration disputes and petty theft. Ethan is clearly scraping the bottom of the barrel." "And what is Nigel's strategy?" Marcus chuckled. "Desperation. They are trying to argue lack of jurisdiction. They claim that since Ethan has established residency in the United Kingdom, which he has not, he has been there for 48 hours. The proceedings should happen there. They are also trying to paint you as mentally unstable. Pembroke sent a letter claiming you are suffering from acute paranoia and vindictive hysteria, and that you emptied the accounts during a manic episode." I nodded slowly. "Predictable. He's trying to invalidate my actions to get the money back." "Exactly. But we have the nukes," Marcus said, tapping the binder. "We have the affidavit from Dr. Thorne regarding his gaslighting. We have the forensic report on the forged signature. And most importantly, we have the timeline. He emptied the joint credit lines before he left. You secured your own assets after, in the eyes of the court. You were protecting marital property from dissipation, not stealing it." "Good," I said. "But we need to twist the knife. He thinks he can hide behind his parents." Ethan's parents, Robert and Linda Caldwell, were the kind of people who believed their son was the second coming of Christ. They had always tolerated me. But they never truly liked me. To them, I was the cold, career-obsessed woman who refused to give them grandchildren immediately. I knew that the moment Ethan called them with his sob story about his crazy wife stealing his money, they would open their wallets. I was right. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. The caller ID displayed Linda Caldwell. I answered on speakerphone, setting the device on my hotel desk next to a fresh pot of coffee. "Sydney!" Linda's voice shrilled through the speaker, vibrating with indignation. "How dare you? How dare you do this to our son? He called us from London in tears. He is stranded. He has no money for food. You have left him destitute." "Hello, Linda," I said calmly. "It is nice to hear from you too." "Do not get smart with me," she snapped. "You are a thief. We always knew you were money hungry. But this is criminal. We are going to wire him $20,000 right now to get him settled. And then we are going to hire a real lawyer to destroy you. You will be living in a cardboard box when we are done." "Before you send that wire transfer," I said, my voice steady, "you might want to check your own retirement accounts." There was a pause. "What are you talking about?" "Ethan has been managing your portfolio for the last 2 years, hasn't he?" I asked. "He told you he could get better returns than your broker. He had power of attorney over your 401k and your liquid savings." "He is a financial genius," Linda defended him, though her voice wavered slightly. "He has doubled our money." "Check the balance, Linda," I said. "Right now, log in." "I do not have the password. Ethan handles it." "I just emailed you the statements directly from the bank," I said. I found them on his iPad, along with the transfer records. I heard the sound of a mouse clicking in the background, then silence, a long, heavy, suffocating silence. No, Linda whispered. It was a sound of pure devastation. No, that says 0. He cashed it out 3 weeks ago, I explained, my voice devoid of pity. He lost nearly $100,000 in a cryptocurrency scam, and he used your life savings to try and cover the margin call so he wouldn't go to jail before his flight. He stole from you, Linda, just like he tried to steal from me. The only difference is, I caught him in time. You didn't. He wouldn't. Robert's voice came on the line now, trembling. He is our son. He is a desperate man who cares about no one but himself, I said. He left me with a $450,000 debt on a house he forged my signature to leverage. Do you think he cares about your retirement home? I heard sobbing on the other end. He said he needed it for an investment. The investment was a lie, I said. If you send him that $20,000, you are just throwing it into a black hole. He will spend it on his mistress, Vanessa, and you will never see a dime of it again, or you can cut him off, make him face the consequences. Maybe then he will learn. I hung up before they could respond. I did not need to hear the rest. I knew the dynamic. Betrayal stings, but financial betrayal from your own flesh and blood creates a wound that never heals. Ethan had just lost his safety net, but while I was dismantling his support system, the consequences of his actions were starting to physically manifest in Seattle. The next morning, I received a notification from my home security system. I had moved out, but the cameras were still active. I opened the app on my phone. A black sedan was parked in my driveway. 2 men in leather jackets were banging on the front door. They did not look like delivery drivers. They looked like collection agents for the kind of lenders who do not report to credit bureaus. Quick Capital Secure, the loan sharks. They were looking for Ethan, but since Ethan was gone, they were looking for his wife. They were looking for the collateral. I watched on the screen as one of them peered through the window. They were aggressive, dangerous. If I had been home, if I had been the weeping victim Ethan wanted me to be, I would be terrified right now. I would be opening the door, crying, explaining that I didn't know anything. Instead, I was safe in my hotel suite. And I had already prepared for this. I dialed the non-emergency line for the Seattle Police Department, a number I had saved to my favorites. "This is Sydney Brookstone," I told the dispatcher. "I have an active restraining order against my husband's creditors due to harassment. I am currently watching 2 men attempting to break into my property at 424 Elm Street. I believe they are armed. I have the footage. I had filed a preemptive police report 2 days ago, stating that my husband had engaged with illegal lenders who were threatening me. This made the men on my porch not just debt collectors, but potential assailants. We have officers in the area," the dispatcher said. "They are en route." I watched the live feed. 3 minutes later, a cruiser rolled up silently. 2 uniformed officers stepped out. The conversation on the porch was brief. The men in leather jackets tried to look innocent, but when the police asked for identification, their bravado crumbled. They were trespassed from the property. More importantly, the police now had a record of Ethan's dangerous associations. This would go straight into the divorce file. It was proof that his financial recklessness put my physical safety in danger. Another nail in the coffin of his character. With the house secure for the moment, I turned my attention to the remnants of his life that he had left behind. Ethan was a man who loved brands. He loved status symbols. His closet was full of designer suits, Italian leather shoes, and limited edition sneakers. He had left most of it behind, planning to buy new things in London with my money. Now, those items were just inventory. I hired a professional organizer to go to the house with a moving crew. "Pack everything that belongs to Ethan," I instructed. "Leave nothing, not a sock, not a cufflink." They brought 20 boxes to a storage unit I had rented. I spent the next 48 hours photographing everything: the Hermes ties, the Gucci loafers, the vintage Fender guitar he never played but hung on the wall to look cool. I created an eBay account with the username karmaisabitch_2026. I listed everything: but I did not list them at market value. I listed them for pennies on the dollar. A $2,000 suit? $50. A $500 pair of shoes? $10. The guitar? $100. The descriptions were brutally honest. Item: men's Italian suit, size 40R, worn by a cheating husband who fled the country with his mistress. Proceed from this sale will go to charity. Bad juju included for free. The listings went viral within hours. People love a scorned woman's fire sale. The bids skyrocketed, not because of the value, but because of the story. I raised nearly $15,000 in 3 days. And then I made the final move. I took every cent of that money and donated it to a charity called the Fresh Start Initiative, a nonprofit that helps single mothers get back on their feet after financial abuse. I made the donation in Ethan Caldwell's name. I posted the receipt on my social media, one of the few posts I allowed publicly. So proud of my husband, Ethan, for donating his entire wardrobe to help victims of financial fraud, even from London. He is thinking of others. Charity giving back. It was petty, it was childish, and it was absolutely delicious. Meanwhile, in London, the walls were closing in on Ethan. I knew this because I was still monitoring his email. He had changed his password, but he was not smart enough to realize that I had set up an auto-forwarding rule deep in the settings menu weeks ago. Every email he received. I saw the emails from Vanessa. Subject: card rejected. Again, Ethan, this is embarrassing. We are eating at Nando's. I thought we were going to the Ivy. You said the transfer would clear by this morning. My dad is asking why I haven't posted any photos of the apartment. I saw Ethan's replies. He was weaving a web of lies so intricate it was bound to snap. Babe, it is just a security hold because of the international move. He wrote, the bank flagged the account because of the large transfer size. I have to go to the branch in person on Monday to verify my identity. It will be sorted. I promise. Just put the hotel on your card for 2 more days. I will pay you back double. He was stalling. He was praying that he could manipulate his parents into sending money, or that he could intimidate me into releasing the funds. He did not know that his parents had just disowned him. He did not know that I was impenetrable. He was buying time with currency he did not have. I also saw the emails from his new landlord, or rather, the landlord of the Airbnb he was forced to rent because he couldn't put down the deposit on the penthouse. Mr. Caldwell, your payment for the 2nd week has failed. If we do not receive payment by tomorrow noon, we will have to ask you to vacate the premises. Ethan was bleeding out. I sat back in my chair, watching the rain streak down the window. I had secured my assets. I had protected my physical safety. I had turned his family against him. I had liquidated his possessions. But the most satisfying part was knowing that he was lying next to Vanessa right now, staring at the ceiling, terrified of the morning. He was trapped in a foreign city with a woman who loved his money, not him, and he was about to run out of the only thing that made him attractive to her. He wanted a drama? I was giving him a tragedy. Checkmate, Ethan, I whispered to the empty room. Your move. But we both knew he had no moves left. He was just a pawn waiting to be swept off the board. London was supposed to be their playground. It was supposed to be the backdrop for a life of high tea at the Ritz, shopping sprees on Bond Street, and evenings spent looking out over the Thames from a glass-walled penthouse. Instead, the reality of Ethan and Vanessa's life had curdled into something gray, damp, and suffocating. They were not living in Kensington. They were not even living in Zone 1, without the $650,000 Ethan had counted on. And with his credit cards reduced to useless plastic scraps, they had been forced to retreat to the fringes of the city. They were renting a basement flat in a crumbling Victorian terrace in Croydon, an hour-long commute from the city center. The place smelled of mildew and stale curry. The wallpaper was peeling in the corners like dead skin, and the heating rattled violently every time it kicked on, which was rare. I knew this because I had the address. I had the listing saved on my browser. I liked to look at it sometimes while I sat in my warm, light-filled hotel suite in Seattle. I imagined Vanessa, A girl who had never worn a pair of shoes costing less than $400, walking across the sticky linoleum floor. It was a petty indulgence, but after 5 years of deception, I felt I had earned it. But the misery of their living situation was only the incubator for the real rot. The pressure was building, and like any weak structure, cracks were beginning to form. Vanessa was pregnant. The news had traveled to me through the grapevine of social media monitoring, but the confirmation came from the escalating desperation in Ethan's digital footprint. A baby meant nausea, it meant doctor visits, it meant cravings, and for a woman like Vanessa Thorne, it meant an expectation of pampering that bordered on the absurd. She did not want National Health Service care. She wanted private clinics on Harley Street. She did not want toast. She wanted organic strawberries imported from Spain. Ethan was drowning. His salary at the London branch was decent, but it was not enough to support a high-maintenance mistress, a looming baby, legal fees for a solicitor who was clearly fleecing him, and the mountain of debt he had left behind in the United States. He was hemorrhaging cash, and he had no tourniquet. So, he did exactly what I predicted he would do. He stopped being a desperate husband and started being a criminal. It began with small irregularities. As a risk assessment auditor, my brain is wired to see patterns where others see noise, even though I was officially on administrative leave while the divorce was processed. I still had my login credentials for the Omnicorp global server. I had not been fired. I was the victim. After all, no one thought to revoke the access of the poor. Grieving wife. One evening, while sipping herbal tea, I decided to run a query on the London branch's expense accounts. It was a hunch. Born from knowing Ethan's psychological profile, he felt the world owed him. He felt entitled to the lifestyle he had promised Vanessa. When a narcissist is denied what they believe is theirs, they take it. I saw it almost immediately. There was a new vendor in the system, Apex Strategic Solutions. It was a generic name, the kind that sounds important but means nothing. The company had been registered only 2 weeks ago. The address listed was a virtual mailbox in the Cayman Islands. I pulled the invoices. They were for consulting services and logistical optimization. The amounts were specific, designed to fly under the radar. $4,850, $9,200, $6,150. They were all just below the $10,000 threshold that required a secondary signature from the regional director. It was a classic structuring scheme. Ethan was approving these invoices himself, likely routing the money to an offshore account, and then funneling it back to himself to pay for Vanessa's demands. I sat back in my chair, the glow of the screen illuminating my face. I could have called the compliance officer right then. I could have flagged the transactions and had him walked out of the building by security the next morning. But I did not. It was too early. The amount he had stolen so far, roughly $20,000, was enough to get him fired. Certainly, it was enough for a lawsuit. But it was not enough for a substantial prison sentence. It was not enough to ruin him completely. I wanted him to feel safe. I wanted him to get comfortable. I wanted him to believe that he had outsmarted the system again. The more he stole, the deeper the hole he dug. When the walls finally caved in, I wanted him to be buried so deep that he would never see the sun again. So, I saved the screenshots. I downloaded the transaction logs. I added them to my encrypted folder titled The Burial, and then I closed the laptop. I had a date. His name was Julian. We had met in the most cliché of ways, at a bookstore in Capitol Hill. I was reaching for a copy of a book on architectural history, and he had reached for the same one. He was tall, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, and hands that looked like they knew the value of hard work. He was an architect, a man who built foundations, who understood that a structure was only as strong as its core. He was the antithesis of Ethan, who was all facade and no substance. We met for dinner at a small, intimate Italian restaurant in Belltown. It was our third date. I wore a dress I had bought with my own money, not to impress anyone, but because it made me feel powerful. "You look distracted," Julian said gently, pouring sparkling water into my glass. He did not order wine for me. He let me choose. He did not check his watch. He looked at me. Really looked at me. Just work, I lied smoothly. I could not tell him that I was currently orchestrating the systematic destruction of my ex-husband. That was not exactly light dinner conversation. I am auditing a very messy file. Well, Julian said, lifting his glass. Leave the mess at the office. Tonight, you are just Sydney, and Sydney deserves a break. I smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached my eyes. Being with Julian felt like stepping out of a cold, dark room into the sunlight. He was honest. He was stable. He drove a sensible Volvo and talked about his nieces and nephews with genuine affection. He did not care about status. He cared about connection. Tell me about the project you are working on, I said, eager to shift the focus away from my own dark machinations. It is a community center, he said, his face lighting up. We are trying to use sustainable materials to lower the operating costs for the city. It is not glamorous, but it will matter to the people who use it. I listened to him talk about load-bearing walls and light filtration, and I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It was hope. It was the realization that there were good men in the world, men who did not lie, men who did not steal, men who did not have secret families or hidden agendas. But even as I laughed at his jokes and let him hold my hand across the table, a part of me was still in London. A part of me was still watching the clock, waiting for the bomb to go off. And the fuse was lit the very next morning. It was a Saturday. I woke up late, feeling rested. I reached for my phone to check the news, and I saw a notification from Instagram. Vanessa Thorne had viewed my story. I did not follow her, and she did not follow me, obviously, but her profile was public. Curiosity, or perhaps arrogance, had led her to check up on the wife she thought she had defeated. I had posted the photo of the charity donation the night before. The caption was clear. So proud to donate the proceeds from selling Ethan's luxury wardrobe to the Fresh Start initiative. Helping victims of financial abuse feels like the perfect way to close this chapter. Goodbye. Armani Suits. Hello. Justice. I navigated to her profile. She had not posted anything new, but I knew she had seen it. I knew what that caption meant to her. In London, it was late afternoon. The scene played out in my mind with crystal clarity, pieced together later from the fallout. Ethan came home to the basement flat, carrying a bag of expensive takeaway food, paid for with the stolen company funds. He probably thought he was being a good provider. He probably thought this would buy him a night of peace. He walked in to find Vanessa standing in the middle of the cramped living room, her phone in her hand, her face a mask of fury. "Where is the money, Ethan?" she demanded. Her voice was not the sweet, seductive purr he was used to. It was sharp, shrill, and dangerous. "What are you talking about?" Ethan asked, putting the food down on the wobbly table. "I told you. The bank account is frozen. It is a technical error. The lawyers are handling it." "Liar!" she screamed, throwing her phone at him. It bounced off his chest and landed on the floor. "I saw her post. Sydney sold your clothes. She sold your suits, your shoes, your stupid guitar. She donated the money to charity." Ethan froze. She what? "She has the money," Vanessa yelled, tears of rage streaming down her face. "She is not frozen. She is fine. She is living in a hotel and dating and laughing at us. You told me the assets were locked. You told me we just had to wait. But she is selling your things because you do not own them anymore." "Vanessa, calm down," Ethan stammered, his hands raising in a pathetic defensive gesture. "I can explain. She is just trying to get under our skin." "She is succeeding," Vanessa shrieked. "Look at this place. Ethan, look at where we are living. There is mold on the ceiling. I am pregnant with your child, and I am eating takeaway in a basement while your ex-wife is throwing thousands of dollars at a charity just to spite you." "I am handling it," Ethan shouted back, his own temper snapping, the stress of the embezzlement, the fear of discovery. and the constant nagging had worn him thin. "I am bringing in money, aren't I? Look at the food. Look at the necklace I bought you last week." "Stolen money," Vanessa accused, her intuition hitting the mark with terrifying accuracy. "Where did you get that cash?" "Ethan, the bank account is empty. Your parents cut you off. Where is it coming from?" Ethan went pale. "Do not worry about where it comes from. Just be grateful I'm providing for you." "I am not grateful," she spat at him. "I am humiliated. I am a thorn. My father runs a logistics empire. Do you know what he would say if he saw me living like this? Do you know what he would do to you?" "Do not bring your father into this," Ethan warned, a dangerous edge in his voice. "He hates me. He hates you because he knows you are a fraud," Vanessa screamed. "And he was right. You are not a genius. Ethan, you are a loser. You are a thief who got caught by his wife. And now you are dragging me down with you." She grabbed her suitcase from the corner of the room. It was already half-packed. She had been planning this exit strategy for days, waiting for a catalyst. My Instagram post was the spark. "Where are you going?" Ethan asked, panic rising in his chest. "I am going home," Vanessa said, ziplockling the bag with a vicious sound. "I am going back to the States. I am going to tell my father everything. I am going to tell him how you lied to me. I am going to tell him how you are stealing from Omnicorp. Do you think he will let his competitor employ a thief? Do you think he will let the father of his grandchild be a felon?" "You can't leave," Ethan pleaded, grabbing her arm. "Vanessa, please. We are in this together. I did this for us." She ripped her arm away from his grip. Her eyes were cold, devoid of the lust that had once blinded her. "You did this for yourself," she said. "And now, you are on your own." She stormed out of the flat, dragging her heavy suitcase up the narrow stairs. The door slammed shut, rattling the frame, leaving Ethan alone in the silence of the damp basement. He stood there, staring at the closed door. The takeaway food on the table was getting cold. He was alone. His parents were gone. His mistress was gone. His money was gone. And hanging over his head was a digital trail of embezzlement that was growing larger by the day. But the worst part for him was the threat. Vanessa was going to her father. James Thorne was a shark in the shipping industry. He was ruthless. If he found out that Ethan Caldwell, the man who ruined his daughter's reputation and dragged her into squalor, was working for his main competitor, he wouldn't just get Ethan fired. He would make it his personal mission to destroy him. I sat in Seattle, unaware of the exact words that were exchanged, but feeling the shift in the universe, I could feel the vibrations of his world collapsing. I picked up my phone and sent a text to Julian. "Dinner was wonderful. Thank you for reminding me what real quality looks like." Then I opened my laptop one last time before bed. I logged into the Omnicorp server. I saw another transaction pending approval. $12,500. He was escalating. He was panicked. He was trying to grab as much as he could before the end. "Go ahead, Ethan," I whispered to the screen. "Take it all. Make it grand larceny. Make it worth my time." I did not stop the transaction. I let it process. The trap was not just set. The jaws were closing. I never expected my greatest ally in this war to be the woman who started it. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and the Seattle rain had momentarily paused, allowing a rare, pale sunlight to filter through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office at Biovance Solutions. I was reviewing a quarterly risk projection, my mind comfortably occupied with spreadsheets and variance analysis. When my personal cell phone buzzed on the desk, I glanced at the screen. It was an international number. Country code 44, the United Kingdom. My first thought was that it was Ethan, calling from a burner phone to beg or threaten me again. I almost sent it to voicemail. I had no interest in hearing his voice, and I had already recorded enough of his harassment to secure a lifetime restraining order. But something made me pause. Ethan usually called late at night, fueled by alcohol and self-pity. This was midday in Seattle, evening in London. I slid my finger across the screen and answered, but I said nothing. I waited. He told you he loved you, a female voice said. It was not a greeting, it was an accusation, choked with tears and fury. I recognized the voice immediately. It was high-pitched, entitled, and currently trembling with rage. It was Vanessa Thorne. "Hello, Vanessa," I said, leaning back in my leather chair. I kept my voice perfectly level. "To what do I owe the pleasure? Is the basement flat not to your liking?" "Shut up," she snapped. Though the venom lacked its usual bite, she sounded exhausted. "Do not mock me. You do not know what he has done." "I know he took you to London on a stolen credit card," I replied. "I know he lied to you about his finances. I know he's currently embezzling from his employer to buy you takeaways. What did I miss?" "He texted you," she said. The words came out like a hiss. "Last night, while I was sleeping right next to him on that disgusting mattress, he texted you." I frowned. I had blocked Ethan on everything. "I did not receive any texts. Vanessa, he is blocked." "He sent them to your old email address," she screamed. "The one you used for the wedding planning. He thought I wouldn't check his sent folder, but I did. I know his password. It is Vanessa2026. She let out a bitter, jagged laugh. "Irony, right?" "What did the email say?" I asked. My curiosity piqued. "He begged you to take him back." Vanessa sobbed. The sound was ugly and raw. "He told you that I was a mistake. He said I threw myself at him. He said he only brought me to London because I threatened to tell HR about your affair if he didn't. He said if you transferred the money back, he would leave me at the airport and fly home to you. He promised to fix everything." I sat in silence for a moment, processing the sheer depth of Ethan's cowardice. It was breathtaking. He had dragged this girl across the ocean, ruined her reputation, and impregnated her, and now he was trying to trade her in like a used car for a cash refund. "I am sorry," I said, and for the first time, I actually meant it, not because I liked her, I didn't, but because I knew exactly how it felt to be the object of Ethan Caldwell's transactional affection. He is a survivalist. Vanessa, he will say anything to anyone to save his own skin. "I hate him," she whispered. "I hate him more than I ever hated you." "Good," I said briskly. "Hate is useful. Hate is fuel. Now, the question is, what are you going to do about it?" "I am leaving," she said. "I am at a hotel near Heathrow. My father is wiring me money for a ticket home tomorrow. I am done." "If you go home now," I said, my mind racing, calculating the angles. "You go home as the scandalous mistress who got played. Your father will be furious. Society will laugh at you. You walk away with nothing but a damaged reputation." "What choice do I have?" she sniffled. "You can have revenge," I said. The word hung in the air between us, heavy and seductive. "You can leave London not as a victim, but as the woman who brought him down. You can be the hero of your own story. Vanessa." "How?" she asked. Her voice was guarded, but she was listening. "I know he is cooking the books at Omnicorp," I said. "I have seen the digital footprints. I know about Apex Strategic Solutions, but digital footprints are circumstantial. I need the smoking gun. I need the physical proof that connects him to the crime." "Why should I help you?" she asked. "You are the enemy." "Because the enemy of my enemy is my friend," I stated efficiently. "And because I have a very talented lawyer who is currently drafting a civil lawsuit for conspiracy to commit fraud. Since you benefited from the stolen money, the flight, the dinners, the necklace, I can legally name you as a co-defendant. I can drag you into court for the next 5 years. I can garnish your future wages. I can make sure your father's logistics company is dragged through the mud of a public trial." I let the threat sink in. It was a bluff, mostly. Suing her would be a hassle I did not need, but she did not know that. "Unless?" she asked, her voice trembling again. "Unless you help me," I said. "We make a deal, a ceasefire. You give me the evidence I need to bury Ethan, and I grant you total immunity. I will sign a waiver promising never to sue you for the money or for the alienation of affection. You get to go home, cry to your daddy, and say you were a victim of a master manipulator. I will even corroborate your story. I will tell everyone that Ethan preyed on you." There was a long silence on the line. I could hear the background noise of a hotel lobby. I could almost see the gears turning in her head. She was selfish. Yes, but she was also a survivor. "He has a notebook," she said suddenly. "He writes everything down, passwords, account numbers for the offshore shell companies. He thinks he is being organized, and I took photos of his laptop screen when he was logged into the fake vendor portal. I have screenshots of him approving his own invoices." "Do you have them with you?" "Yes, they are on my phone." "Send them to me," I commanded. "Right now. Encrypted messaging app, Signal or Telegram. Do not use email." "And the deal?" she asked. "Send the files, and you will have a signed covenant not to sue in your inbox within the hour. My lawyer is standing by." 2 minutes later, my phone vibrated. I opened the secure message. It was a treasure trove. There were 12 photos. The first few were of Ethan's laptop screen, clearly showing the Omnicorp interface. He was logged in as an administrator. The screen showed an invoice approval for Apex Strategic Solutions in the amount of $12,500. The service description was Logistical Consulting, Phase 2, but the real gold was the notebook. Vanessa had photographed a page where Ethan had handwritten the login credentials for the Apex bank account in the Cayman Islands. He had even scribbled a note in the margin: "Transfer to crypto wallet immediately upon receipt." It was undeniable proof of money laundering and embezzlement. It was a confession written in his own hand. "Received," I typed back. "Pleasure doing business with you. Vanessa, have a safe flight." I forwarded the images immediately to Marcus. "Draft the immunity agreement for Miss Thorne," I instructed, "and then prepare the whistleblower package." Vanessa was out of the game. She was fleeing back to the safety of her trust fund, likely to spin a tale of woe that would absolve her of all guilt. I did not care. She was irrelevant now. She had served her purpose. Now. I turned my attention to the main event. I spent the next 3 hours compiling the dossier. I combined Vanessa's photos with the transaction logs I had downloaded from the server. I added the forensic report on his forged signature from the loan shark document. I wrote a cover letter, concise and professional, outlining the scheme. To Omnicorp Global, Department of Internal Compliance and Legal Affairs. From and concerned stakeholder. Subject: immediate urgent evidence of embezzlement and fraud. London branch. Attached is evidence confirming that Mr. Ethan Caldwell, currently acting as Senior Director of Operations in London, has engaged in systematic theft of company funds through fictitious vendor invoicing. Furthermore, Mr. Caldwell is currently under investigation in the United States for identity theft and bank fraud. Please regard the attached bank credentials and handwriting samples as primary evidence. I hovered my mouse over the send button. This was it. This was the moment that would turn him from a man having a bad month into a felon. This would strip him of his visa. This would put him in a British prison cell. I clicked send. The email whooshed away. I sat back, exhaling a breath I felt like I had been holding for 5 years. The professional destruction of Ethan Caldwell was now on autopilot. The corporate gears would grind him to dust within 24 hours. But I was not done. I wanted him to feel fear, primal, physical fear. Ethan had borrowed $450,000 from Quick Capital Secure. These were not bankers in suits. These were men who operated out of strip malls and used intimidation as a primary collection tactic. Since I had directed the police to their agents at my house, they knew I was a hard target. They knew the police were watching me. So, naturally, they would turn their attention back to the borrower. I had the contact number for the account manager who had been harassing me. I decided to send him a helpful tip. I used a burner app to send an anonymous text to the loan shark. Ethan Caldwell is not in Seattle. He is in London. He is staying at 42B Cromwell Road, basement flat. He has your money, but he is spending it on a luxury lifestyle. He plans to flee to a non-extradition country next week. Here is his current UK mobile number. I typed in the number. I hit send. 5,000 miles away, in a damp basement flat in Croydon. Ethan Caldwell was sitting alone. Vanessa was gone. The silence of the apartment was oppressive. He was likely staring at his phone, waiting for a reply from me that would never come, or waiting for Vanessa to come back. Suddenly, his phone would ring. He would answer, hoping it was salvation. "Hello? Mr. Caldwell," a gravelly voice would say. It would not be a British accent. It would be the flat, menacing tone of an American debt collector who had just booked a flight or hired a local contractor. "We heard you are enjoying the London fog. We have a heavy interest payment due, and we have friends in East London who are very eager to meet you." Ethan would drop the phone. He would realize then that the walls were not just closing in, they were on fire. I imagined him scrambling to pack his bag, but he had nowhere to go. His credit cards were dead. His passport was about to be flagged by Omnicorp. His mistress had abandoned him, and now the sharks were circling. I closed my laptop and stood up. I walked to the mirror in my hotel room and looked at myself. I expected to see a monster. I expected to see someone twisted by vengeance, but I did not. I saw a woman who looked tired. Yes, but I also saw a woman who was free. "Enemy of my enemy," I whispered to my reflection. Vanessa thought she had won by escaping. She did not realize that by giving me that notebook. She had handed me the shovel to bury her lover. She was the accessory to the murder of his life, and she didn't even know it. The phone on my desk buzzed again. It was a text from Marcus. "Omnicorp Legal just confirmed receipt. They are mobilizing a security team to the London office. They want to secure the devices before he deletes anything." It is happening. I smiled. The first domino had fallen days ago. Now, the rest were clattering down in a beautiful, chaotic symphony. Ethan thought he was the main character of a drama. He was wrong. He was just the victim in a horror movie, and the monster was finally coming out of the shadows. And the scariest part? The monster was the law. The end did not come with a whimper. It came with the heavy thud of security boots on corporate carpet. It was 9 a.m. in London. Ethan was sitting at his desk on the 42nd floor of the Omnicorp building, likely nursing a hangover and trying to figure out how to explain the $12,000 hole in the budget before the monthly audit. He had no idea that the audit had already happened, triggered by an email sent from a hotel room in Seattle 6 hours prior. According to the report I received later from my contacts in HR, contacts I had cultivated for years for moments exactly like this, it was swift and brutal. 3 men in dark suits walked into his office. They were not colleagues. They were from the Global Fraud Investigation Unit, flown in overnight from the headquarters in Zurich. "Mr. Caldwell," the lead investigator said, not bothering to offer a hand. "Please step away from the computer." "Excuse me?" Ethan stammered, his face draining of color. "I am in the middle of a report." "Your access has been revoked," the man said, while the other 2 began boxing up his files, his personal phone, and the notebook that Vanessa had so kindly photographed for me. "You are hereby suspended effective immediately pending an investigation into gross misconduct, embezzlement, and money laundering." "This is a mistake," Ethan shouted. Standing up, "You can't do this. I am the senior director." "You are a liability," the investigator corrected him. "Security will escort you out of the building. Do not return. Do not attempt to contact any clients. And Mr. Caldwell, the Metropolitan Police are waiting in the lobby to collect your passport. You are considered a flight risk." He was marched out of the building in front of his entire staff. The man who had strutted in a week ago as the new King of London was paraded out like a common criminal. He was stripped of his badge, his company laptop, and his dignity. Down in the lobby, the police were indeed waiting. They did not arrest him, not yet, but they confiscated his passport pending the investigation into the fraudulent invoices. Without a passport, he could not leave the United Kingdom without a job. His Tier 2 work visa was automatically voided. He was now, legally speaking, a ghost. He had 28 days to leave the country or face deportation, but he couldn't leave because he had no passport. He was trapped in a bureaucratic purgatory of his own making. He returned to the basement flat in Croydon, hoping to find solace, or at least a plan. Instead, he found emptiness. Vanessa was gone. She had left hours ago, taking the morning flight back to New York on her father's dime. She had left a note on the kitchen counter, scrawled on the back of a takeout menu. "I hope she destroys you. You deserve it." And then, the physical collapse began. The stress of the firing, the impending legal doom, and the abandonment hit him all at once. Ethan, a man who had never known a day of true hardship in his life, collapsed on the floor of the flat. He woke up in an NHS hospital emergency room, diagnosed with a severe panic attack and dehydration. When he was discharged 6 hours later, he was handed a bill. As a non-resident without insurance or a job, he was liable for the full cost, £400. He stared at the bill. He had $10 in his American account. He had £0 in his pocket. That was when he called me. It was late afternoon in Seattle. I was in Marcus Sterling's office again, finalizing the divorce decree. Julian was there too, sitting quietly in the corner, offering silent support. My phone rang. "Husband" flashed on the screen. I looked at Marcus. He nodded. "Answer it. Let's hear him beg. It will be good for the record." I tapped the speaker button and set the phone in the center of the mahogany table. "Sydney?" His voice was a broken, jagged thing. He sounded like a child who had been lost in the woods for days. "Sydney, please, pick up." "I am here, Ethan," I said, my voice cool and detached. "You are on speaker. My lawyer, Marcus, is here, and my partner, Julian, is here too. Say hello, everyone." "Hello, Ethan," Marcus said cheerfully. "Hi," Julian said, his voice deep and calm. There was a choked sob on the other end. "Sydney, they fired me. They took my passport. I am at the hospital. I have nowhere to go. Vanessa left me. I am all alone." "I know," I said. "I received the notification from Omnicorp's legal team this morning. They were very efficient." "You did this," he wept. "You sent them the files. You ruined my life." "You ruined your own life, Ethan," I corrected him. "I just turned on the light so everyone could see the mess." "I am begging you," he cried, his voice rising to a hysterical pitch. "I need money. I need $5,000. Just 5,000. Please, I need to pay the hospital. I need to get a lawyer to get my passport back. I need a ticket home. I will pay you back. I swear. I will sign whatever you want. Just get me out of here." I looked at Julian. He reached out and squeezed my hand. I looked at Marcus. He was smiling, shaking his head. $5,000, I mused. That is a lot of money, Ethan. That is 500 hours of work at minimum wage. Have you considered getting a job? "I can't work," he screamed. "I don't have a visa. I am illegal." "Well," I said, "I hear the London Underground is very lucrative for performers. You have always been a good actor. Ethan, you acted like a loving husband for 5 years. Surely you can act like a blind beggar for a few weeks." "Sydney, please. I am going to die here." "You won't die," I said. "You are a cockroach. Ethan, you will survive, but you will do it without my money. Not 1 cent, not 1 penny. You wanted to be free? You are free. You are free of me, free of your job, free of your responsibilities. Enjoy it." "I love you," he shouted, a last, desperate lie. "I still love you." "Goodbye, Ethan," I said. I hung up. The silence in the room was absolute. Then, Marcus cleared his throat. "Well," he said, shuffling his papers, "that concludes the emotional component. Now, for the legal victory." He slid a document across the table. It was stamped with the seal of the King County Superior Court. Decree of dissolution of marriage. Default judgment. Because he failed to respond to the summons, mostly because he was too busy committing fraud in another country, the judge has granted a default judgment, Marcus explained. "You win everything." I looked at the terms. "Petitioner, Sydney Brookstone, is awarded sole ownership of all liquid assets currently in her possession, totaling $650,000, as reimbursement for financial dissipation and marital waste committed by the respondent. Respondent, Ethan Caldwell, is assigned sole responsibility for all debts incurred in his name, including the loan to Quick Capital Secure. And the house? I asked. That is the best part, Marcus grinned. The bank foreclosed on the house yesterday because the second mortgage went into default immediately. However, since the debt was in his name, they auctioned it off to recoup the loss. He pulled out another file. And guess who bought it? I smiled. Highland Real Estate, LLC. A company formed last week, Marcus confirmed. Sole proprietor, Sydney Brookstone. You bought your own house back from the bank for $300,000, half its market value. You paid cash from the funds you secured. You now own the home free and clear, with no mortgage, and Ethan is still liable for the remaining deficiency on the loan he took out. I sat back, the magnitude of the victory washing over me. I had my money. I had my home. I had my freedom. And Ethan? He had a hospital bill and a one-way ticket to a deportation hearing. He will come back eventually, Julian said quietly. They will deport him. Let him come, I said, standing up and walking to the window to look out at the city I now owned a piece of. He has nothing to come back to. His credit is destroyed. His reputation is incinerated. His family has disowned him. He is walking into a wasteland. I turned back to them. But right now, I said, I believe I have a bottle of champagne that needs opening. And Julian, I believe you promised to show me the blueprints for that community center. I did, Julian smiled. Good, I said. Let's build something real. 5,000 miles away. Ethan Caldwell sat on a curb outside a hospital in London. It was raining. He put his head in his hands and wept, but there was no audience. There was no applause. There was only the sound of the rain and the cold. Hard realization that the curtain had fallen, and he was the only one left on stage. 6 months is a long time in the world of finance, but in the life of a man like Ethan Caldwell, it must have felt like an eternity. I'm standing in my new office on the 35th floor of the Biovance Solutions headquarters. The view is panoramic, sweeping across the gray steel of the Seattle skyline to the choppy waters of Puget Sound. The plaque on my door no longer reads Senior Risk Assessor. It reads Chief Financial Officer. The promotion came 2 months ago. A recognition not just of my tenure, but of the ruthless efficiency I demonstrated during the last fiscal quarter. Success, it turns out, is the best cosmetic. I look at my reflection in the glass. My hair is cut sharper, a bob that frames my face with authority. My suit is a tailored cream blazer that costs more than the car Ethan is likely sleeping in. I look vibrant. I look untouchable. And down there, somewhere in the maze of wet streets and alleyways, is my ex-husband. He returned to American soil 10 days ago. I know this because my private investigator, who I have kept on a monthly retainer, sent me the notification the moment Ethan's name appeared on a flight manifest. It was not a triumphant return. It was a deportation. The legal team at Omnicorp Global ultimately decided that a public trial in London would be too damaging to their brand reputation. They did not want the headlines to read, Omnicorp executive embezzles thousands. So, they made a quiet deal with the British prosecutors. Ethan pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of minor fraud. He served 3 months in a low-security facility in Essex, just enough time to lose his tan and his arrogance, and then he was put on a plane and expelled from the United Kingdom. He is banned from entering the European Union for 10 years. He landed in Seattle with a duffel bag of dirty clothes, a criminal record that flags him on every background check system in the country, and a debt load that has likely doubled due to accumulated interest. He is radioactive. No bank will open an account for him. No landlord will rent to him without a credit check. No firm in the financial sector will even look at his resume. His name is now synonymous with liability. I expected him to hide. I expected him to crawl into a hole. But desperation has a way of making people stupid. And Ethan was never particularly bright to begin with. 3 days ago, he tried to come here. I was walking through the lobby of Biovance, returning from a lunch meeting with the board of directors. I was flanked by 2 junior analysts who were hanging on my every word. Discussing the quarterly projections, the lobby is a cavernous space of marble and glass, designed to intimidate, and the sound of my heels clicking on the floor was the rhythm of power. Then I heard a commotion near the security turnstiles. "I need to see her. She is my wife." The voice was ragged, hoarse, and desperate. I stopped. I turned my head slowly, not with fear, but with the curiosity of a scientist examining a specimen. It was Ethan. He looked 20 years older. His face was gaunt, the skin gray and papery. He was wearing a windbreaker that was 2 sizes too big and stained with something dark. His hair, once perfectly coiffed with expensive gel, was overgrown and greasy. He looked like a man who had been chewed up by the world and spat out on the pavement. He saw me. His eyes locked onto mine, wide and feverish. "Sydney!" he screamed, lunging forward. "Sydney, tell them who I am." 2 security guards, massive men with necks as thick as tree trunks, intercepted him effortlessly. One of them grabbed Ethan by the arm and twisted it behind his back. Ethan yelped in pain, a pathetic, high-pitched sound that echoed off the marble walls. "Ma'am?" the head of security asked, looking at me for instruction. "Do you know this individual?" I looked at Ethan. I looked at the man who had promised to love me. The man who had plotted to steal my grandmother's legacy. The man who had laughed at me with his mistress in a first-class lounge. "No," I said clearly, my voice carrying through the silent lobby. "I do not know him. Remove him." "Sydney!" Ethan shrieked as they dragged him toward the revolving doors. "You can't do this. I am sick. I need help. Sydney!" I turned my back on him and walked toward the elevators. I did not look back. I did not feel a pang of guilt. I felt only a cold, hard satisfaction. The universe has a way of balancing the books, and I was simply witnessing the correction. But I know he did not leave the city. He cannot leave. He has no money for a bus ticket, let alone a plane ticket. He is trapped here, in the city where I am a queen and he is a beggar. My investigator tells me he is working under the table. He found a job at a construction site in the industrial district, doing manual demolition work for cash. It is brutal, back-breaking labor. He spends his days hauling rubble and breathing in drywall dust for $15 an hour. He sleeps in a motel on Aurora Avenue, the kind of place where the sheets are stained and the doors do not lock properly. And he is being hunted. The men from Quick Capital Secure have not forgotten. They know he is back. They are just waiting for the right moment to collect. Ethan lives every second looking over his shoulder, terrified of every black car that drives by slowly. It is a hell of his own making. Yesterday evening, however, the dynamic shifted. Julian and I went to the Pacific Place shopping center. We were not there for clothes. We were there for something far more permanent. Julian had proposed 2 weeks ago, on a quiet Sunday morning while we were drinking coffee on my balcony. It was simple, honest, and perfect. There were no grand speeches, no hidden agendas, just a good man asking a woman he respected to build a life with him. We walked into the jewelry store, holding hands. The sales associate, a woman with immaculate poise, recognized me immediately. "Ms. Brookstone," she smiled warmly. "It is wonderful to see you again, and this must be Julian. Come this way. I have pulled the selection you asked for." We sat at the velvet-lined counter. Trays of diamonds and sapphires were laid out before us. The lights in the store were engineered to make everything sparkle, to make the world feel soft and expensive. Julian picked up a ring. It was a vintage design, an emerald-cut diamond set in platinum. "What do you think?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "It is timeless, like you," I smiled, sliding it onto my finger. It fit perfectly. "It is beautiful. We will take it," Julian said without hesitation. He pulled out his card, his own card, linked to his own solvent bank account. As we waited for the receipt, I felt a prickle on the back of my neck. It is an instinct I have developed over the last 6 months, a sixth sense for danger. I turned my head slightly, looking past Julian's shoulder, through the glass facade of the store, and out into the rainy street. He was there. Ethan was standing on the sidewalk, huddled under the awning of the building across the street. He was soaked to the bone. He was watching us. I could see his face clearly under the street lamp. It was twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. He was watching Julian hold my hand. He was watching me laugh. He was watching the transaction, the purchase of a symbol of love and future, and he knew he was excluded from it forever. He looked at the shopping bag in Julian's hand. He looked at my suit. He looked at the security guard standing discreetly by the door. In that moment, I saw the shift in his eyes. It was no longer just despair, it was malice. I could read his mind as easily as I used to read his fraudulent spreadsheets. He was thinking that it was unfair. He was thinking that I had stolen his life. He was thinking that the money I used to buy my house, the status I enjoyed, the happiness I radiated, it should have been his. And then, a darker thought formed. I saw his eyes narrow. I saw him look at the dark alleyway next to the parking garage. He was thinking about leverage. He was thinking that if he could just get to me, physically get his hands on me, he could force a transfer. He could demand a ransom. He could hurt me enough to make me pay. He was thinking about kidnapping. He was thinking about violence. It was the last resort of a man who has lost all other options. Julian squeezed my hand. "Sydney, is everything okay? You went pale." I turned back to my fiancé. I forced a smile, though my heart was hammering a warning rhythm against my ribs. "I am fine. I just thought I saw someone I used to know." "Do we need to leave?" Julian asked, his voice dropping. He knew about Ethan. He knew everything. He was protective, but he also knew I did not need saving. "No," I said firmly. "We are not running." I stood up and walked to the door of the shop. I signaled to the man standing by the entrance. His name is Silas. He is 6 feet 4 inches tall. A former Navy SEAL who now runs the private security detail I hired the day Ethan was deported. I pay him $4,000 a month, and he is worth every penny. "Silas," I said quietly. "I see him. Ms. Brookstone," Silas replied, his voice a low rumble. He did not even turn his head. His eyes were scanning the street, tracking the figure across the road. "Subject is at 3 o'clock. Indigo jacket. He has been following us since we left the office." "He is escalating," I said. "I can feel it." "Do you want me to intercept?" Silas asked. "No," I said. "Not yet. If we engage him now, he plays the victim. He causes a scene. I want him to make the first move. I want him to commit to the mistake." "Understood," Silas said. "I have a second unit in the garage. He won't get within 10 feet of you." I looked back through the glass. Ethan was still there, staring. He looked like a hungry wolf watching a fire from the darkness. He thought he was the predator. He thought I was the prey, distracted by my shiny new life. He did not realize that I had anticipated this moment 6 months ago. When I bought the house back, I installed a state-of-the-art perimeter system. When I got the promotion, I hired Silas. When I started dating Julian, I put a GPS tracker on my own car and gave Julian a panic button app for his phone. I have spent my entire career managing risk. Ethan is just another variable, a volatile, dangerous variable. Yes, but a predictable one. "Let's go," I said to Julian, taking his arm. We walked out of the store and into the rain. I saw Ethan take a step forward. He flinched, as if his body was compelling him to rush at us. But then he saw Silas step out behind us, his massive frame blocking the light, his hand resting casually near his waist. Ethan froze. He shrank back into the shadows. We walked to the car. I got in, the smell of new leather and Julian's cologne surrounding me. But as we pulled away, I looked in the side mirror. Ethan was watching the taillights fade. He was standing in the rain, shivering. with nothing but hatred to keep him warm. He thinks he can hurt me. He thinks he can ambush me. He is formulating a plan right now, dreaming of a way to drag me down into the gutter with him. Let him try. He does not know that the trap I set for him in London was just the opening act. If he comes for me now, if he tries to cross the physical line, he won't just be deported. He will be buried. I touched the diamond on my finger. It was cold and hard and sharp, just like me. "Are you happy?" Julian asked, as we merged onto the highway. "I am," I said, looking at the rain streaking the window. "I am very happy." And it was the truth, because the best part of winning is not just the victory, it is knowing that the loser is watching you enjoy it. Desperation is a chaotic variable. In my line of work, chaos is the enemy. It disrupts models, it ruins projections, and it creates unquantifiable risks. Ethan Caldwell had become a chaotic variable. His attempts to approach me physically had failed, thwarted by the imposing wall of muscle that was Silas, my head of security. So, like water seeking a crack in the foundation. Ethan changed tactics. He went for my reputation. On a Tuesday morning, I received an email from Sarah Jenkins, a junior analyst in the accounting department at Biovance Solutions. Sarah was young, impressionable, and exactly the kind of person Ethan used to charm effortlessly. Ms. Brookstone. The email read, "I think you should know that your ex-husband contacted me via LinkedIn. He invited me for coffee to discuss serious financial irregularities regarding your tenure. He claims you embezzled funds from your previous marriage to finance your current position. He says he has proof that you are a fraud." I have not replied. I stared at the screen. He was trying to poison the well. He was trying to destroy my professional credibility because he knew it was the source of my power. If rumors started circulating that the chief financial officer was a thief, the board would have to investigate. Even an unfounded investigation could derail my career. He was not just a nuisance anymore. He was a cancer, and you do not negotiate with cancer. You cut it out. I picked up the phone and called Silas. "It is time," I said. "He is escalating. I want to end this tonight." "What is the plan?" Silas asked, his voice steady. "We give him what he wants," I said, my eyes cold as they scanned the gray skyline of Seattle. "We give him a target, we give him an opportunity, and then we close the door." The plan was a masterpiece of entrapment. It relied on Ethan's greed and his consuming belief that he was the victim. I replied to Sarah. I asked her to come to my office. When she arrived, trembling and nervous, I told her exactly what to say to him. I turned her into a double agent. "Tell him you believe him," I instructed her. "Tell him you overheard me on a call. Tell him I am going to a storage warehouse in the industrial district tonight at 8 o'clock. Tell him I'm meeting a private appraiser to inventory unauthorized assets, jewelry and gold coins that I hid from the divorce court. Tell him I will be alone because I do not want anyone to know." "Is that safe?" Sarah asked, wide-eyed. "For you?" "Yes," I said. "For him?" "No." The location was a warehouse on 4th Avenue South, a cavernous, rusting structure owned by a subsidiary of Biovance. It was isolated, dark, and perfectly controlled. At 7 o'clock that evening, I drove my Audi into the warehouse. The rain was falling in sheets, drumming a relentless rhythm on the corrugated metal roof. I parked the car in the center of the vast, empty space, illuminated by a single overhead halogen light that cast long, dramatic shadows. I got out of the car. I was wearing a trench coat and sensible boots. I placed a metal briefcase on the hood of the car. It was empty, but to an observer, it looked like it held a fortune. I checked my watch. 7:55. "We are set," Silas's voice crackled in my earpiece. He was up in the rafters, hidden in the darkness 30 feet above me. "Police units are staged 2 blocks away. We have visual on the subject. He is approaching on foot from the south alley." "Copy," I whispered. "Is the feed live?" "Live and recording," Silas confirmed. I took my phone out and propped it against the briefcase. the camera lens facing the main bay door. On the screen, I saw the connection icon. It was a secure video conference. On the receiving end sat Marcus Sterling, my lawyer, and Detective Miller from the Seattle Police Department Major Crimes Unit. They were watching from the safety of the precinct. I waited. The sound of the rain was deafening, but underneath it, I heard the scrape of metal on concrete. The side door creaked open. A figure stepped out of the shadows. He was dripping wet, his clothes clinging to his emaciated frame. His eyes were wild, darting around the empty space until they locked onto me. And the briefcase. "Ethan," I said. My voice echoed in the vast emptiness. "You are late." He walked toward me, his steps erratic. He looked like a man possessed. He was shivering, but I knew it was not just from the cold. It was adrenaline. It was hate. "You thought you could hide it," he rasped. Stopping 10 feet away, he gestured to the briefcase. "That is my money, Sydney. That is the gold you stole from me." "There is no gold." "Ethan," I said calmly, "just like there was no future for us. You are chasing ghosts." "Don't lie to me," he screamed, his voice cracking. He reached into his jacket pocket. "I know you have it. Sarah told me. You hid assets. That is fraud. Sydney, I can send you to jail." "Is that why you are here?" I asked, goading him. "To make a citizen's arrest? Or are you here for a payout?" He took a step closer. The light caught the object in his hand. It was not a gun, but it was a long, serrated hunting knife. The blade gleamed dully. "I am here to take what is mine," he snarled. "Open the case." "And if I don't?" I asked. I did not flinch. I did not step back. I stood my ground, my heart rate steady. "Then I will cut you," he said. The words hung in the air, heavy and damning. "I will cut you until you scream the combination, and then I will leave you here to bleed out. No one knows you are here. Sydney, no one is coming to save you." "Are you threatening to kill me, Ethan?" I asked clearly, for the benefit of the microphone. "I am promising it," he hissed. "You ruined my life. You took everything. Now I am going to take your life. It is only fair. An eye for an eye." He lunged. It was a clumsy, desperate attack. He rushed forward. The knife raised. His face twisted into a mask of pure violence. "Now," I said. I did not move. I did not have to. From the darkness above, a high-intensity spotlight blinded him. At the same moment, the heavy bay doors behind me rolled up with a thunderous crash. "Police! Drop the weapon! Drop it!" The shout came from everywhere at once. Uniformed officers poured into the warehouse from the side exits, their weapons drawn. Ethan froze. He blinked into the blinding light, the knife still raised in his hand. He looked like a deer caught in the headlights of a semi-truck. "Drop it or we will fire!" The metal clatter of the knife hitting the concrete floor was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. Ethan fell to his knees. He put his hands on his head, sobbing. It was instant capitulation. The monster who had just threatened to bleed me out was gone, replaced by the coward who had cried for $5,000 in London. Silas rappelled down from the catwalk, landing silently beside me. He stood between me and Ethan, a human shield. 2 officers rushed forward, grabbing Ethan's arms and wrenching them behind his back. The click of the handcuffs was loud and final. I walked over to the phone. I looked at the screen. Marcus gave me a thumbs up. Detective Miller looked grim but satisfied. "We have it all. Ms. Brookstone," the detective said through the speaker. "Attempted armed robbery, extortion, assault with a deadly weapon, and premeditated attempted murder. We have his confession on tape." "Thank you, Detective," I said. "He is all yours." I ended the call and slipped the phone into my pocket. I walked toward where the police were hauling Ethan to his feet. He looked up at me. His face was streaked with rain and tears. He looked pathetic. He looked small. "Sydney," he whimpered. "Sydney, tell them it was a joke. Please, I didn't mean it." I stopped a foot away from him. The officers paused, letting me have my moment. You meant every word. Ethan, I said softly. Just like you meant it when you forged my signature. Just like you meant it when you boarded that plane with Vanessa. You have always meant to hurt me. You just never thought I would hit back. I am your husband, he cried. You are a felon, I corrected him. And you are going to prison for a very, very long time. 20 years. If Marcus has his way. You wanted a free ride? You got one. State penitentiary. 3 meals a day. I hate you. He screamed as they dragged him toward the patrol car. I hate you. I watched him go. I watched them shove him into the back seat. I watched the blue and red lights flash against the wet walls of the warehouse. I searched inside myself for anger. I searched for the rage that had fueled me for the last 6 months. I searched for the vindication, but strangely, I felt none of it. I looked at the man in the back of the police car, pressing his face against the glass, screaming silent obscenities. I realized I did not hate him anymore. Hate implies that he has power over me. Hate implies that he matters. He did not matter. He was just a bad investment I had finally written off. Are you okay, Ms. Brookstone? Silas asked, his voice gentle. I looked at the empty warehouse, then at the rain falling outside. The air smelled clean. The storm was breaking. I am fine, Silas, I said, buttoning my coat. Actually, I am better than fine. I walked back to my car. The briefcase was still sitting on the hood. I opened it. Inside, there was nothing but a single sheet of paper, the printout of the email he had sent me months ago. Begging for money, I took the paper out, crumpled it into a ball, and tossed it onto the wet concrete. Trash collection is on Tuesday, I murmured. I got into my car and started the engine. The heater kicked on, warming my hands. I put the car in drive and pulled out of the warehouse, leaving Ethan Caldwell in the rearview mirror, surrounded by the flashing lights of his own consequences. The trap was sprung, the rat was caught, and the house was finally, truly clean. The courtroom was a theater of gray carpet and mahogany, smelling faintly of lemon polish and old anxiety. It was the stage for the final act of the drama Ethan Caldwell had started, but this time, he was not the director. He was merely the defendant. The trial had lasted 3 weeks. The state prosecutor, a sharp-witted woman named Alvarez, had laid out the charges of financial fraud, identity theft, and attempted murder with surgical precision. But Ethan, true to his nature, had refused to go down quietly. He had taken the stand in his own defense. It was a pathetic performance. He sat in the witness box, wearing an ill-fitting suit provided by his public defender, and tried to weep. He told the jury that he was a victim of coercive control. He claimed that I, the cold and calculating auditor, had driven him to madness with my demands for perfection. He painted himself as a man who had only borrowed the money to try and give his wife the life she demanded, and that the incident in the warehouse was a cry for help, not an attempt on my life. I never wanted to hurt her, he sobbed, looking at the jury with wide, wet eyes. I just wanted her to listen to me. I loved her. A few jurors looked sympathetic. Ethan was handsome, even in his ruin, and he knew how to play to an audience. He was sowing doubt. He was trying to frame his greed as a tragic romance. Then, it was my turn. I walked to the stand not as a victim, but as the final authority. I swore to tell the truth, and when the prosecutor asked me about the nature of our marriage, I did not just answer, I destroyed him. Mr. Caldwell claims he married you for love, Alvarez said. Is that true? No, I said clearly. He married me for an inheritance. Objection, Ethan's lawyer shouted. Speculation. I have proof, I said, turning to the judge. Your Honor, I would like to submit Exhibit G into evidence. It is a digital audio file, recorded 5 years ago, 3 weeks before our wedding. The courtroom went silent. Ethan's face went pale. He had no idea this existed. I had never told anyone about it. It was a voicemail he had left me by accident, a pocket dial made at 2 in the morning while he was out at a bachelor party. I had listened to it the next morning, devastated. But I had saved it. At the time, I convinced myself he was just drunk and posturing for his friends. I buried my head in the sand because I wanted to be a bride, but I never deleted it. The clerk played the file. The sound of a crowded bar filled the courtroom. Then, Ethan's voice cut through the noise, loud and slurred. "She is boring, man." Ethan's voice boomed from the speakers. "She is an accountant. She counts beans, but her grandmother just kicked the bucket and left her a gold mine. I put a ring on it. I endure the boredom for a few years, and then I cash out. It is an investment strategy, not a marriage." The audio ended with the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavy. It was suffocating. I looked at the jury. The sympathy was gone. It had been replaced by pure, unadulterated disgust. They looked at Ethan not as a tragic lover, but as a predator who had been planning to bleed me dry before the ink on the marriage license was even dry. Ethan stared at the table, his hands trembling. He knew it was over. The mask had not just slipped. I had ripped it off and set it on fire. The verdict came back in 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge, a stern woman who had clearly seen enough men like Ethan to last a lifetime, did not hold back during sentencing. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, looking over her glasses, "you are a danger to society. You view people as assets to be liquidated. You have shown no remorse, only self-pity, for the crimes of wire fraud, identity theft, and attempted murder. I sentence you to 25 years in the state penitentiary, with no possibility of parole for 15 years. The gavel banged. It sounded like a gunshot. Ethan screamed. He tried to lunge toward me, but the bailiffs were on him instantly. They dragged him out of the courtroom, his feet kicking uselessly against the floor. I watched him go. I did not smile. I did not cry. I simply felt a weight lift off my chest, a weight I had been carrying for 5 years. The ledger was balanced. The account was closed. A week later, I was sitting on a bench in Volunteer Park, watching the rain drizzle through the trees. I was waiting for the final loose end. She walked up the path slowly. Vanessa Thorne looked different. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger, and infinitely more tired. She sat on the other end of the bench. We did not look at each other. We watched a dog chasing a frisbee in the distance. "I heard the sentence," she said softly. 25 years. "He earned every day of it," I replied. "I know," she said. She took a deep breath. "I wanted to tell you I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know I was part of the problem. I was arrogant and I was stupid. I thought I was special." "He made everyone feel special." "Vanessa," I said. "That was his I went to the clinic," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "The baby. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring a child into this world with his DNA. With this mess hanging over it, I terminated the pregnancy last week." I nodded slowly. I did not offer platitudes. It was a hard choice, but given the wreckage Ethan had left behind, it was a rational one. She was cutting the cord. She was ensuring that Ethan Caldwell had no legacy. "I am going back to school," she continued. "My father cut me off, and honestly, I am glad he did. I need to learn how to stand on my own 2 feet. I am going to study law." "That sounds like a good plan," I said. She stood up. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. There was no hatred in her eyes anymore, only a grim respect. "You won," she said. "No," I corrected her. "I survived." She nodded once. A sharp, decisive movement. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the gray mist of the Seattle afternoon. We would never speak again. She was a footnote in the story, a character written out of the script, so the protagonist could finally move on. 2 years later, the smell of airport coffee and jet fuel usually triggers a stress response in me. It reminds me of the day I stood at the departure gate, feigning tears while my husband left me for another woman, But today, the air smells like possibility. I am standing in the exact same terminal at SeaTac Airport. The bustling crowds are the same. The announcements are the same. But I am not the same. I am 34 years old. I am the CEO of Brookstone Analytics, a boutique financial investigation firm that specializes in uncovering corporate fraud. The $650,000 I took from the joint account, the money Ethan thought he would spend on penthouses, became the seed capital for my company. Through aggressive investment and the booming tech market, that sum has more than doubled. It sits in my accounts, not as a safety net, but as a war chest. But the money is the least interesting thing about my life right now. Passports? A voice asks beside me. I turn. Julian is standing there, holding 2 coffees. He looks handsome in his travel coat, his eyes crinkling with that smile that still melts my defenses. Right here, I say, handing him the navy blue booklets. Boarding in 10 minutes, he says, checking the monitor. Are you ready for 2 weeks in the Maldives? No phones, no emails, no auditors. I think I can manage that. I laugh. We are going on our honeymoon. We got married 3 days ago in a small, private ceremony by the water. No drama, no secrets, just promises we actually intend to keep. As we stand in line for security, I reach into my purse to get my boarding pass. My fingers brush against a piece of paper. It is an envelope. It arrived at my office yesterday. The return address is the Washington State Penitentiary. The handwriting is jagged and familiar. Ethan. I pull it out. I look at it for a moment. I wonder what he wrote. Is it an apology? Is it a threat? Is it a plea for money for the commissary? Is he telling me he found God? Is he telling me he still loves me? For a second, curiosity flares. I could open it. I could read the last words of the man who tried to destroy me. But then I look at Julian. He is laughing at something a child is doing in the line ahead of us. He is light. He is future. The envelope in my hand feels heavy. It feels like the past. I walk over to the recycling bin next to the security checkpoint. I do not rip the letter open. I do not hold it up to the light. I simply tear it in half. Then I tear the halves in half. I drop the confetti of white paper into the bin. I do not know what he wrote. And for the first time in my life, I do not care. His voice has been silenced. He is a ghost in a cage, shouting at walls that will not answer. I walk back to Julian. What was that? He asks. Junk mail, I say, taking his hand. Nothing important. Come on, he says, squeezing my fingers. They are calling our group. We walk toward the security scanner. I step through the machine. It does not beep. I am clear. I walk to the other side and grab my bag. I look out the massive windows at the runway. A plane is taking off, banking steep into the clouds, heading somewhere warm, somewhere new. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. They are wrong. Revenge is not a dish you serve at all. Revenge is not about what you do to the other person. It is about what you do for yourself. Ethan wanted to leave me with nothing. He wanted me to be a broken, destitute woman crying in an empty house. Instead, I am walking through an airport terminal with a man who adores me, a business that empowers me, and a bank account that secures me. I am vibrant. I am successful. I am happy. That is the vengeance. I am living a life so bright, so full, and so magnificent that his shadow cannot touch me. He is wrought in a cell. I am the sun. I tighten my grip on Julian's hand. We walk down the jet bridge, leaving the ground behind. Ready? Julian asks. Always, I say, and I don't look back. Thank you so much for listening to this story of betrayal, justice, and rising from the ashes. I would love to know where you are tuning in from. Please drop a comment below and let me know which part of the world you are representing. If you enjoyed Sydney's journey, please subscribe to the Sweet Rose Drama channel, like this video, and hit that hype button so we can share this story with even more people. Your support means the world to us.